Hey y'all, Laura here with Cox Homestead. In this video today, I'm going to share with you why we raise meat rabbits, how we got into it, and how it benefits our family after all of these years. So let's first start with why we got into raising meat rabbits. About 10 years ago, my husband started mentioning the idea of raising rabbits for meat. I told him absolutely not. I had pet rabbits as a kid. I had no interest in raising rabbits for meat production. That just wasn't something I was going to do. He said, well, Laura, at the time we were on a half-acre of land. He said, but it's something we can do without a lot of land. Why don't you consider it? And I said, no, absolutely not. Well, this went on for probably 2 to 3 years. And I was in denial. I wasn't going to do it. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. Well, finally, I was like, why are you holding him back from something that he wants to do? If he wants to do it, let him do it. And so I said to Brad, I said, if you want to raise rabbits, go for it. Here's the money for the cages. My gift to you, you do it. And he went and got the cages and we got all that set up. And I didn't go with him for the cages, nothing. This was going to be his thing, right? And so then he sets up an appointment to go to a farm to pick up our rabbits, our breeding trio. And you notice I'm already saying our, however you want to say it. And I was like, okay, that's fine. That's great. Well, aren't you going to go with me? And I said, I guess I can. I love seeing farms. This sounds interesting. I'll go. And we get to the farm and he says, well, aren't you going to pick out which ones you want? And I said, I thought this was your thing, but since I'm here, I'll pick out the ones that I'm interested in or the ones I like the looks of. And so the kids and I then proceeded to pick out 3 rabbits. My kids named them Freddie, Hopster, and Fluffer. We got the rabbits in January of 2019. And by that fall, we were able to start breeding our rabbits and we had some meat to process. I had told Brad, I enjoy doing everything. And in fact, within 6 months of raising the rabbits, I had taken over everything. Their feeding, their watering, their poop collection, all of that, you name it. I had taken over. I'd even started selling their poop, all that stuff when we were still on our half acre. And in the process of moving, I still was selling the poop. And these rabbits were already paying for themselves just from their poop alone. And I said, you know what? These aren't so bad after all. You know, I'm interested in helping you a little bit with them. I'll do the feeding and the watering and that sort of thing, but I want absolutely nothing to do with the processing. I will not touch that rabbit until it is clean and in my fridge. You have to do all of that. And so he did it. He first started out using a gun to shoot them, and I would stay back far. I didn't want to see it. And then he would clean them, and then he would bring them in the house to me. And I was okay cooking them, but I wanted nothing to do with cleaning or eviscerate or the dispatch or the evisceration or any of that sort of thing. And finally, I started slowly sharing about it on my Instagram in 2020 and rolling into 2021. And people were asking me questions about processing them. And I said, well, Brad, I guess if so many people want to know and it looks like I'm the one doing all of this, it's time that I learn. And so I started watching from a distance, and each time he processed, I would get a little bit closer. And finally, I decided I was ready to get my hands in there and see what this was all about. And so I did it. And the first time I processed rabbits, we did it on a table and they were laid out. We didn't have anything to hang them at that time. We were just skinning them and gutting them like he did squirrels growing up hunting. And it was fine. I did okay. I actually was proud of myself. I did better than I thought I would. I got in there and went to town figuring it out. I was a little weirded out by it being warm. I was a little weirded out by the slight odor once you get inside the cavity. And I was like, okay, this isn't terrible. It's weird, but I can get over it. And slowly and surely, I just kept going at it and practicing a little bit more every time. And now I can do the whole process from beginning to end with a rabbit. But it didn't happen overnight. If you noticed, it went from I don't want them for meat to okay, you get them for meat to okay, I'll go with you to pick them out to okay, I want to do everything but process to okay, now I'm ready to process. This was years. This took about that from him first mentioning it to me processing my first rabbit was probably 5 years. I kid you not. Just simply because I wasn't okay with the idea of that. I grew up with rabbits as pets. It made me very uncomfortable to think about doing. I had never taken a life of an animal besides a bug, when you squash a bug or something like that. I'd never done any of that thing. We had a little experience with chickens, but again, he still did that. It wasn't my thing. But the moment I did it and I got involved, I realized I was empowered to make a difference in my family's life. And at that point, I was hooked. I was hooked to knowing that I could humanely raise something, care for it to the best of my ability, process it to the best of my ability, and provide food for my family to the best of my ability. And this was something I had never dreamed I would do. When I was in high school, I was in theater, I was in show choir, I did all the home ec stuff, but I never once thought I would be processing animals in my 30s to feed my family. So that's the story on how we got into raising rabbits. And here we are over 5 years later, still going strong and enjoying every moment of it. And why am I enjoying every moment of it? Because rabbits are so sustainable. They literally pay for themselves. Now, I've had to work hard to make them pay for themselves. I've had to do lots of marketing. I've had to do lots of education, lots of bringing people here to the farm. But overall, they have 100% paid for themselves over the years. And the ways I've done that is through selling them manure, which I mentioned was the very first thing I did. The second way I did that was through farm tours so people could have hands-on experience with the rabbits. The third way is by selling live rabbits to people either as pets or breeders. The fourth way I've done that is selling processed rabbits for family consumption. And number 5 is we are now offering workshops on how to raise them and process the rabbits. All of those avenues have fully covered the cost of our rabbits, making them essentially a free source of food for our family. Now, I will say that free source of food comes with daily work and care. So if you're counting your hours and your time, it is not free. But if you're counting just the money that goes out the window, it's covered. We do have water involved, and then new supplies and upkeep and things like that comes in. But for the most part, we can get that covered with any sort of sales we have or events to teach about raising them. Once I got that established and started paying for itself, I started offering 4-H in our county for rabbits. There wasn't a 4-H club, and I thought it would be important for those kids to know about rabbits and all the wonderful reasons that someone might have a rabbit. And so I started a 4-H club, and that was my way of giving back. Once these rabbits have paid for themselves, all right, it's time to give back and get other people benefiting from their wonderful qualities. So the first reason why I am still hooked on rabbit all these years later is because they pay for themselves. The second reason I'm hooked on them is because they taste amazing. If you have not tried rabbit, reach out to me if you're local. I do sell it. Also, if you're not local to me, you can reach out to another rabbitry, especially in Tennessee. We can sell our rabbit meat direct to consumer, and try it for yourself. See what you think. I encourage people to quarter it up and to try each piece a little bit differently cooked. Don't fall for the whole throw it in the crock pot and make soup. That started us off on the wrong foot, because rabbits have a lot of little bones, and you end up eating those bones and you're mad and you're frustrated when you cook them whole like that. So learn some ways to cook them that you will enjoy, and maybe I'll do a video about that in the future. If you'd like me to do a cooking video on the different ways that we cook it, let me know in the comments, and I'll work on that video for you. So I love how it tastes. I love how it's a nice lean meat. I can put it on my salads. I'm a salad girl, eat a salad every day, and I have that rabbit or chicken now. Since we raise meat chickens, I put that on there, and it saves me from buying lunch meat or something else quick. I can have meat from my own freezer for dinner. And number 3, the reason why we continue to choose to raise them is because they are so easy. They are so easy. Our children help with it. They aren't high maintenance. You don't have to process them on an exact certain date. They're very forgiving, and I love how easy they are to handle. They don't have a lot of odor or smell involved. In the heat of the summer right now, the barn does have a little bit of a stench, just simply because it is so humid here, and we don't have good ventilation in there at the moment. We're working on that. It's not caused any problems for our rabbits being the way it is, and I do remove the poop and stuff, but getting some ventilation there will hopefully help with any odor, eliminate any of that. It's really not bad. They're really easy to handle. I get messages from people that are having problems, And ultimately what I encourage them to do is to find one source to learn from that's doing it well. Because oftentimes people get to learning about rabbits and researching it, and they get all these different opinions about how to do it, when to do it, what kind to raise, all these different things, and they try and mesh all those different methods together. And while that can work for some, I feel like learning one person's method that's working successfully for them is going to be your best route to start, so you're not overwhelmed by all the opinions, whether that be me and my channel or somebody else in their channel. Pick one method to start with, follow that through, and you too will see how easy it is. If you start having problems, then you can reach out to another person or reach out to the person that you're learning from, but find a mentor. It's really not that hard, and if you're having problems, it could have started with your feed or your stock in the beginning. That's my encouragement. Don't get overwhelmed, just go for it. And that's kind of what we did. Brad did do some research. We got one book, Story's Guide to Raising Rabbits, which is very commercial rabbit based. There's very little in that book that we follow and practice now. I've also got a few more books that teach about raising rabbits, and I'll put a few pictures of those up here that have been helpful to me in learning about the health and wellness of rabbits, and a few different opinions on raising them. Again, I didn't read any other opinions until I had one established of my own, and then I can start incorporating other things. So I hope that you will consider some of these books. I'll put my Amazon storefront in the comments below, and you can check those out there and maybe order one for you to learn from. So we got into rabbits because it was my husband's idea, and then I slowly took over the whole process, and we are still into rabbits. And honestly, it's my number one thing on the homestead as far as livestock goes. My husband does the sheep. We have the meat chickens that we work together on, and then the rabbits are mostly mine. He will help me process when needed, but I could come out here and do it completely on my own if I needed to. It's just funner to work with a friend, and so we often do it together, or I'll have a friend come over and help me process too. But it's very empowering as a woman to have something that I can easily handle on my own and then come process and provide for my family. And that's a reason I keep coming back to them, is that it is something I can slowly do on my own. If something were to happen to Brad, I could still continue to raise rabbits easily on my own. And I think that you could too. Given you're in good health and you have a nice space for them, I think it keeps people coming back to rabbits. They're easy. It's the reason why we have them here in America today. They were so easy. They were brought over on the ships with our forefathers, exploring. They had a quick protein source. So easy, not a lot of noise, not a lot of space, not a lot of odor. I'm sold. So I hope you enjoyed this little behind the scenes of how we got into rabbits, why we are still into rabbits, and why rabbits work out so well for our family and our homestead and our business here. If you have any questions about anything that I mentioned in this video specifically, feel free to leave it below and I will do my best to answer it. If you have not hit that subscribe button, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Like this video and let me know what you want to see more of in the future. Until next time, eat more rabbit! And here we are 5 years later, 6 years later, going on 7. No, that's not me. Okay, the wind is blowing. I'm gonna turn like this and see if that blocks this mic.